Hey everyone, it's Jake at Jake's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well and welcome to episode 66 of my Metal Vault, where I will be exploring and showing you my favourite albums within heavy metal to thrash metal to death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, folk metal, you name it, all of that excellent stuff. As well as talking about the albums, I will also be talking about the band, so a brief history and any releases leading up to the album that I have picked. And this one I don't think's been mentioned as much. I haven't seen it been mentioned a lot here on YouTube. I believe that some metal YouTubers have covered this band before, but not very many. And if you love your death metal, you are going to love this band right here. And they played one festival in the Netherlands that I went to called Neurotic Death Fest, but I didn't watch them in the end. I went off with the mates that I went to the festival with to the bar not too far away. If you are familiar with the festival Neurotic Death Fest and the little pub, happily named the Little Devil in Tilburg, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, I wish I watched him that year because I was just, when I got into him, I think I got into him, oh man, I want to say about 2017, maybe a little bit later on. And they're a really good band, I think. And to all of you hardcore, diehard death metal fans, you're gonna know this band. Or if you are a death metal fan but you don't know these guys, give them a listen. You might like it, you might not like it. But for those who have been listening to death metal for a very long time and know this band and know this album, and I've been a fan of the band ever since this album, or maybe gotten some 2-3 years after this album, but you should know this one. The band I'm talking about here is Nominon, and some really excellent underground Swedish death metal. And this album here is just from start to finish, just insane. So let's crack on with it. This is Nominon and their 1999 debut, Diabolical Bloodshed. What cool artwork that is. And also, I like the logo, of course. There's the back of the album. There's the picture of the lads in the band. Songs up there. And it is a re-release because it's got bonus tracks, which are re-recorded versions of songs they have. And of course, I'm going to get the booklet out of the case. But before I do that, I'm going to show the CD, which has their logo and the title of the album with a pentagram on the back, as well as a bit of the artwork from the cover. And let's get the artwork again there with lyrics and pictures of the band. So 2 of them there, 3 of them there with lyrics, and then 1 of all of them there. Gonna move a bit closer. I'm straining my pack a bit. And who did what? So it was recorded and mixed at the famous Sunlight Studios. A lot of bands have gone there to record albums. You know, when I say Entombed, Dismember, and Dark Throne went there to record Soulside Journey, of course, at this famous studio right there. And who did what there? Engineered, mastered, cover art, band photos, lyrics, and so on. Of course, picture of the band there again. And one more time for the artwork and the logo and the album title. Now, before we crack on with the album itself and what I think of it, let's talk about the band themselves. Let's talk about Nominon. What do you need to know? So they formed in 1993 in Sweden, and I'm not going to try and pronounce the place they're from because I am, as you know, my pronunciations are not always the best. So, and I don't want to butcher it, so I don't really want to try. Of course, released some demos before this debut album, and I will get on to the demos in a minute. Released their second album in 2005. The last album was released in 2012, so they haven't done anything since. So they only have 5 albums. So they got demos, ton of EPs, splits, a compilation live album. But a lot of the bands will have either not as many demos or not as many EPs, or have more albums. But these guys only have 5 albums in their discography, so they haven't released anything since 2012. But the compilation they did in 2020 called Yes to Death, that was the last thing they've ever released. In 2015 they did split up. So this would have been around the time I went to the festival I mentioned, Erotic Death Fest, that ended that year. And then they reformed 3 years later. And yeah, been going strong ever since. And I was meant to see him in London for the Swedish Invasion gig in 2021, along with Marduk, Unleashed, Syntonex, who I ended up seeing last year in London. And I can't remember the top of my head, but if anyone else was going to go to that gig, you'll probably remember all the bands on top of your head, because I can't remember them at the moment. But yeah, and these were one of them. I was going to go see them there. Hopefully, one day I will see these guys back here in the UK, or if they're playing a festival that I want to go to abroad, I'm going to go there, because I gotta get these, gotta rewind, gotta see these guys live. Now let's get on to the releases leading up to this album. So they released 5 demos, 2 in 1993 called Demon 1 and 2. They were both independent releases, and to click on them, 5 tracks overall. Obviously, one being the intro, one being the outro, and again with their second demo, 5 tracks, intro leading into the song, and then the outro leading from the last song. Then their second demo, called Demo 2 96, released in 1996 on cassette, independent release. Not sure when in 1996, but released sometime that year, whatever month and date it is. Then their second demo they released in 1996 on the 3rd of March of that year. So the first demo, called Demo 2 from 96, Demo 2 96 would have been released sometime before that. So I want to say about January, February. That's just my rough estimate. So this is an independent release again, and it's the same 4 tracks on each side. And then the promo 97 from October of 1997, 5 tracks, independent release. And then 1999 saw the release of their debut, Diabolical Bloodshed, released on the 15th of November 1999 on Extreme Records, and not the Extreme Records that we know, run by Dave Rotten of Evolved and countless other bands. This was one from Sweden that specialized in black metal, death metal, and doom metal. Founded in 1996. Of course, Nominon being one of the bands on there, along with Beheaded, releasing their debut in 1998. And if you're not familiar with Beheaded from Malta, definitely check them out. Let's get back to this band. Who's in the band? So we have Nicholas on vocals, Jonas on guitars, Juha, I want to say how that's pronounced, Juha on guitar. He played guitars, Lenny on bass, love his name though, Lenny Blade, and Emil on the drums. And I believe Nicholas is no longer in the band. Johannes is no longer either. Joha is, again, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He's still in the band currently today. Lenny is also, well, Lenny's not in the band anymore, but he was in other bands as well as Nominon. And get on to Emil. He is no longer in the band. He left in 2001. And I didn't look to when Lenny played. He left 2004 and he was in the band from 98. Nicholas, when did he leave? 2002. Vocalist from 1995 to 2002. Johannes Jonas. I think that's Jonas. Again, like I said, pronunciation is not that good. He was in on guitars from 96 to 2004, and then vocals 2002 to 2004, and he was also in other bands as well. Now let's get on to those who did what on here. So Joha, who is still in the band now, did the logo for the band. This logo. And for the layout, that was Dino Gfex, who's done stuff for 3 other bands, one called Vond, Mortis, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the other band, but he's done other stuff as well. Jock Peterson, who obviously plays in bands, in a band called Bloodshed Nile and Retaliation. He was also in the band Regurgitate, very big in the gore grind scene, in gore grind in general. So a really cool gore grind band right there. Of course, a band I never got to see live either. A lot of guest stuff for other bands. And let's get on to who else he's done besides Nominon. Because I was looking at what he's done, like so producing and engineering, so he's done it for a lot of other bands. So Centenex, another Swedish death metal band that I got to see last year at the New Cross Inn in London. Eternal Oath, Golgoroth, Catatonia, Necrophobic. Of course, Omlon did the promo 97, and then this Regurgitate, as well as a lot of other bands. Traumatic, another band from Sweden, one of those early death metal bands from Sweden. Later went on to stoner metal, and called it quits in 99 when this, obviously the same year this came out. So he did, let's get back onto the album. He engineered it, and he was under the name Joke Peterson. And then we got Magnus, who is in a band himself, which is more on the, well, they were black metal, but then melodic death metal later on. I'm not going to try and pronounce the band, like I said. Don't want to try and mispronounce something and then look like an idiot. For music stuff, as well as Nominon and also his own band, he also did stuff for it. to other bands, mainly recording, engineering, mixing, producing. Of course, for this one, he did the mastering. And then we get on to Joe, who did the artwork. Not just for this band, but for a lot of other bands as well, one of which I've mentioned on here. Abomination, which of course was a Paul Speckman band. Angel Corpse, very big in the blackened death metal. And I don't think they're going anymore. Let me just double check on them. Nope. I've been going since 2017. But that's one of the other bands he's done besides these guys. Autopsy, the Headless Ritual. He did the artwork for that. Evolved, who I've mentioned, their first album. And who else? Syntonex, Christ Denied. Other bands that people will know. Diabolical, Enforced, who I will be seeing very soon, coming next month. Incantation, Christian, Motorhead. Did the logo for Motorhead, which is amazing. I mean, working with legends as like Motorhead and countless other bands within other genres of metal is amazing. He's got a big list of bands here. Vader is one of them. Vital Remains. He did the cover art for Dawn of the Apocalypse. Yep, that's how that's how big his list is. But he's done countless covers for artworks used by bands such as Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, as well as Motorhead. So Motorhead, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. So from those bands to bands like Abomination, Angel Corpse, Nominon, and just Syntonex, Question, bands like that. So from rock and heavy metal bands to black and death metal bands is a wide range of bands there. So that's who did what on the album, who did vocals, guitar, bass, drums, cover art, recording, mixing, mastering. Now let's actually get onto the songs. This is a 8-track release. It clocks in at 37 minutes and 2 seconds. And this album from start to finish is absolutely just insane. All the songs are just killer. Shows you how much I love this album right here. So first song being Malicious Torment, starting it all off with that savage guitar work, the dirty bass, the blasting drums, the killer vocals, and then that carries on in Sodom's Fall. A lot of the same stuff right there. Also, Night of Damnation, Servants of the Moonlight, Cemetery of Life, Son of the Dragon, No Holy Ghost Shall Rise. All just bringing that level of brutality, and then getting on to the very last song on this album, which is the longest song actually, and has to be probably my main favorite from this album. The Sufferer, and just a solid song on an already solid album. It's unrelenting from start to finish. Just get onto the members again. So you get Janus and Joha on with their excellent guitar work here. Lenny with his excellent bass, and Emil with the drums, excellent drumming, just excellent musicianship all around. With Niklas vocals just on top of that, giving it that overall, just that overall evil nasty, well, maybe not nasty, evil, heavy tone, just the tone of his vocals, the tone of the instruments, just everything that you would want out of a band and an album such as this. And just some solid death metal. And like I said, they are a Swedish death metal band, but don't use the HM2. Not every band from Sweden use the HM2 pedal. It's more on just the standard guitar tones, and like, you know, the more like that's way to describe it. Like the American style death metal tone, that, you know, just that without any, you know, added distortion, so you don't have that buzzsaw sound that you get with the HM2. Not at all, but still savage as it is. Just savage overall. And I even mentioned, if you watched my chat with Al from Coffin Mulch, not everything needs to have a certain pedal or a certain effect. It's still gonna be brutal and heavy overall. And this is just some evil sounding death metal at its absolute, just an album. I don't think, like I said, I don't think this has ever been talked about on here, as far as I know, or it probably has. I just haven't found the channel that's been speaking about it. I mean, some riffs do sound a little bit, and I don't know if anyone else might have caught on it, but some of it might go a bit into the black metal vein, just a tad, but it's death metal through and through. As for this, I didn't listen to the bonus tracks. I was only going to be talking about just as the album would have come out at the time. And whoever heard this back in the day, I mean, I'll say what I normally say at the end of these videos, but this is definitely something that for any death metal fan needs in their collection. Like I said, I found this, and yeah, I found this at Black City Records. And I thought, I need this before anyone else picks it up. I'm like, well, if anyone else has got their eye on that album, they're not having it yet. They're not going to have it. I'm going to pick it up, and I am going to have it in my collection. And of course, it's been here ever since, along with a lot of other albums that I've got. One of which, mentioning Swedish death metal, Carbonized for the Security. That's That's not a re-release. That's an original pressing. That's not going anywhere. Get a bit of a get some bit of a liquid. Voice is getting a bit dry. Wetting the whistle. But yeah, excellent stuff right here. I love my death metal. And you're probably thinking, oh, you love anything. Love all things death metal. There have been a few bands I'm like, yeah, not too sure about them and haven't really got back to listen to them since. But hearing stuff like this and similar stuff to this, but not totally imitating it, I love it. I love stuff like this. But a lot of people know I love HM2 death metal, that HM2 sound, but I also love stuff without it. And this is one of many albums without it. And yeah, I'm just, you know, kicking myself for not actually seeing them live. Like I said, I hope to see him live at some point. Not sure when. Obviously, I was meant to see him 3 years ago. And it was going to be done by the same promoters that did FilmFest in 2020. But if I find out these guys are going to be doing a tour and it ends up in the UK, I'm definitely going to go see them. And let's just say it's they're doing this entire album from start to finish. Yeah, I'll be happy with that. Um, yeah, really, really great stuff right here. Excellent, excellent stuff. Now, my overall conclusions on the album. There's always two I like to say. Well, there's multiple different words I like to say. It's heavy. That's one of the main ones I say a lot. It's evil, and I've said that quite a bit on here. It's savage from start to finish. Everything on here is just executed brilliantly. And most importantly, that all important word, it's a timeless masterpiece. And of course, I have many more albums like that coming up on this page, and there's more to come as well that are timeless masterpieces, not just to me, but probably to, well, be masterpieces to you as well as they are to me. And this is definitely one that is on that list. And of course, gets that Jake's Metal Chat stamp of approval. Of course, it's going to get that stamp of approval for me because it's the type of death metal that I like. Because there's some death metal I'm not totally fussed with these days, but stuff like this, oh, I can't get enough. You know, that more raw, primitive sound. I mean, it is raw, but the production on it is brilliant. It's brilliant to me. Might not be brilliant to everyone else, but to those who love this band and love this album, of you're gonna like, yeah, definitely. But if you haven't heard this band yet and haven't heard this album, I do recommend that you pick it up if you can find a copy. Excuse me. If you can find a copy, brilliant. If not, then listen to it on whatever streaming site that you listen to music on, and just give it a good listen. But if you do have it on CD, pop it back in your CD player. If you got on vinyl, give it another spin. If you got on cassette, if they did release this on cassette, pop it in your cassette player or your Walkman. Because I know a few people that still listen to tapes and have Walkmans. Stick it on there and just give it a good listen until you can't listen to it anymore. And to all you death metal fans out there, this would be a new band for you if you are not familiar with them and haven't heard them yet. As for bands that are more, you know, I'm trying to think who would be similar to them. Can we picture? Can't really think of any that have that same sort of style as they do. And of course, like I said, this album came out in 1999. But let's have a look at what other albums came out that same year. So, Colony by In Flames. So, another Swedish metal band right there. And also another one, Opeth, with their album Still Life. Control Denied with The Fragile Art of Existence. Slipknot's debut. Children of Bodom, Hatebreeder. At Heart of Winter by Immortal. Who else? Wisconsin Death Trip by Static X. World Coming Down by Typo Negative. 9 by Merciful Fate. The Gathering by Testament. Burning Bridges by another Swedish death metal band. More on the melodic side, but still a really cool band there. Arch Enemy. So, a lot of bands from Sweden releasing albums around the same time. Dreaming Neon Black by Nevermore. Who else? Dark Tranquility, Projector. The Burning Red by Machine Head. Was it The Light at the End of the World by My Dying Bride, who I have mentioned on here. Us and Them by Godflesh. The Path of Reckoning by Deeds of Flesh, of course. Mentioned Deeds of Flesh on here very recently. Bloodthirst by Cannibal Corpse, who I saw 2 days ago. Still got it. S&M by Metallica. Calculating Infinity by, well, the Dillinger Escape Plan. And Times of Grace by Neurosis. So a lot of albums were coming out the same time these guys released their debut. And also, to name one more, and this is a great, solid album, and I need to mention these guys here on my channel soon. Necrophagus, with their album Onset of Putrefaction. So there's another one right there. As well as countless others, but there's a big list. Big list of albums that came out the same year as these guys' debut. So to recap, heavy, evil, savage, death metal, and it's a timeless masterpiece. Just excellent quality death metal. Nominon and Diabolical Bloodshed. Don't have it? Try and find a copy and give it a good listen. If you have it on CD, vinyl, cassette, give it another good listen. And that's it for another episode of My Metal Vault. 66 episodes. And I have so many more episodes to do. Hoping to try and get to 100 this year, before the end of the year. Just to give it a bit of a break before I start it again. Well, let's hope I can get to 100 before then. I mean, September now, so I might have a good chance of getting that done. Not sure what album to do for my 100 episode, but I'll think of something. It's good when I do this series. I always do this at the end of my videos, as you know. It's always good to do this series because I find gems like this. Obviously, I've mentioned albums that people already know, but there's going to be a lot of you out there who were looking at this thinking, I don't know who the hell Nominon is. And there's probably a lot of people who were like, well, already know who Niall was, but wasn't too familiar with Black Seeds of Vengeance, unless they, you know, because for all you know, people would have gotten into a band with their latest releases, not the early releases, so they probably were not familiar with the album that I mentioned from Niall, Black Seeds of Vengeance, but are familiar with it now. And obviously, a lot of you who watch this series, I'll find out about new bands. That's how I found out about new bands, is from watching all the other metal YouTubers' videos. So to give them a big shout out, the Death Doom Metalhead, Mark G with a C, Men Loves Death Metal. Oh man, there's like 3 of those I respect. There's countless more. Of course, he's no longer on here, but Ken's Death Metal Crypt. Yeah, the list just goes on. If I can remember at the top of my head, I will put them down in the description below. So, and I don't do shout outs in this series to other metal YouTubers, but once I've uploaded this, that as well as seeing all where you can find out about the band, where you can follow him, and so on, I'll have that recommendations list of metal YouTubers that do, you know, collection updates and also their own video series as well. So again, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of My Metal Vault. Don't forget to like the video, share it around. Comment down below. Where did you first hear about Nominon? Was it their debut? Was it their second album? Or the EP from 2003 or 2004? Recremation, which was from 2001. Did you hear him in 2005? Have you been a fan of him since 2005, or have you been a fan of him since 2009? And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with everything that I have coming up on this channel. More My Metal Vault episodes. There will be more chats. Of course, the most recent one was Al from Coffin Mulch. You haven't watched it yet, you can click on my channel and find it on there, or I might leave it along here, which I haven't done yet, but I might do, or I'll put it in the description below. And big collection update as well, which hopefully I won't go too long into, but if it ends up being over an hour, you can always pause it and come back to it. And yeah, just got a lot more of these albums to find and show you on this channel. Hopefully get to 100 episodes before the end of the year, and then I can give this series a little bit of a break and then come back to it sometime in the new year. And that's it, and maybe some more live band stuff as well, so which I sometimes do for this channel. So I've been Jacob Jake's Metal Chat. Keep the banner of metal well and truly high, and I will see you all again in another episode of my Metal Vault.